and we have me hosting. So thank you for joining us today. We have KJ Zelezinski, Ronan McDonald, Richard Miller. We'll be covering everything Buffalo, everything sports. Make sure you guys check us out on our socials at Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, all of it. Check out our website, buffalosportsinsider.com. And so today's show we're going to start and success story from our guy
Richard
Richard.
over here, so let's see what you got.
So I did want to start with something a little bit different for today's show and just point out some of the accomplishments some local athletes who came from this area uh, have recently um, received.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But so first, I really wanted to shine a light on Jonah Heim, who's the catcher for the Texas Rangers, who, by the way, is having a phenomenal year, all-star starter at that,
Yeah.
and now is going to the World Series. He had a huge home run in Game 6, 2 hits in Game 7, and he's really just been a pivotal of this Rangers team, who now has a chance to compete for the first World Series title in franchise history.
Yeah, ain't that crazy?
They're gonna get against the D-backs, right?
Yeah,
Is that right? Have the
D-backs, yes.
D-backs ever won?
I believe so.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. I might be room for the Rangers a little home. Yeah. Sorry, continue.
And then some other local sports news moving to basketball. Actually, the 585 Rochester, Jalen Pickett from Aquinas Institute, went to college ball at Penn State, made his NBA debut yesterday for the Denver Nuggets. He was a second round
Yeah.
draft pick for the reigning champions in their respective association. But it will be interesting to see if he cracks the rotation. Bruce Brown recently left Denver in free agency, so they're looking for a guard off the bench. He could do a little bit of everything. He only had 1 minute, but 1 of 1 in that 1 minute. So he got shot up and he made it. So, and then also I would like to shout out a guy that I went to school with, Jordan Nwora, is playing for the Indiana Pacers today, NBA champion with the Milwaukee Bucks. So really an area full of champions, but it's interesting to see, even in the sports that we don't have professional teams in, that we
Mhm.
could still have guys from the area succeed.
It's true.
Highest level.
I agree. And man, am I happy that the NBA is back because me, I'm definitely a basketball fan. I grew up playing basketball. But on to other sports, we had the Sabres. They played a great game against the Ottawa Senators last night. Let's clap it up for them.
Yeah, let's go.
Sadly, though, at the end, I was a little scared. I was very scared. I saw some fighting going on. That's not really something that I'm used to watching in the sports that I watch. So I was like, okay, what's going on here? Then everything started falling apart. But before all of that started happening, they were playing a very decent game, in my opinion.
Oh yeah.
From what I heard that they're capable of doing on their first line, I heard that they were able of scoring a lot of goals. I only saw 6 at the end. What do you have to say about that, KJ?
This is the largest goal deficit that they've had in the season so far. And I
Mhm.
mean, it's good to see the Sabres kind of coming back like this off of some really disappointing, like, one score losses. Like, it's tough. I'm glad you brought up fighting because my boy Alex Tuck had
Mhm.
his Gordie Howe hat trick, a fight, goal, assist all in one game. Like, just really, I mean, he's back to it. He's definitely been a big question mark in the offense where it's like, can Alex Tuck really perform, at the level he was performing at last season? But did want to mention too that Craig Anderson, former Sabres goaltender, before the Sens game last night,
Mhm.
signed the one day contract, retired with the Senators. And I mean, just good for him. It was cool to have him in Buffalo for a little bit, but obviously he was a longtime Sen.
Yeah.
Um,
I
but
appreciate you bringing that up because it also ties into Luukkonen and
Yeah.
his first start. I would like to say that I think that Luukkonen did a very good job off of my first experience of watching the Sabres game. 34 saves. I'm pretty sure that's not something that you hear about happening a lot every night. So, Ronan, what do you think about that?
Especially like they really started to turn it on. He really made saves when he needed to, so it was a good performance.
Mhm.
Richard, do you have any thoughts?
Not so much on Luukkonen, but I think it's kind of concerning that the Sabres allowed 38 shots on goal.
Mm.
Yeah, I'm not that. I think that's a good point to bring up too, because again, even with the last season, it was always like defense is just has always been the biggest question mark. And again, when you're letting 38 shots, and I mean, granted, a lot of those came at that 4 minute mark, and like, oh man, it was a 5-1 lead, and they
Mm-hmm.
blew it under 4 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I don't want to say blew it because obviously they came back, but the fact that less than a minute's left and you're on a 6-on-4 could tie the game.
Yeah,
It's
it's close.
So
across the
I
field.
understand that lines work
Mhm.
primarily on offense, but there's only two lines on defense, and then you have
Yeah.
your goalies.
Yeah.
So the defensive pairs. So how exactly do you say like the Sabres would find that great defensive pair with the best offensive line that able to stop them from getting 38 shots on goal?
Yeah, it's all about chemistry, really. Like I said, I think a lot of the times you're not going to have the same pair or like same pair lining up with the same offensive line.
Mhm.
So again, it's really just finding which defensive pair can work well together, and then finding the strengths of each offensive line. You have some people like I'll throw out Cousins. Like Dylan Cousins
Mhm.
has a great back check. He's really good at going from one end of the ice, going all the way down to the other end of the ice to help out, your offense, or your defense rather. So I think it really just depends, and as long as you have that chemistry between your defensive pair, you'll be all right. And that's what I feel like Dahlin and Samuelson have brought for a couple of years now.
Mhm.
And Clifton and even Clifton and Erickson have, or I'm sorry, Clifton and Eric Johnson have been doing a pretty good job of that.
All right.
It was a really good team performance just coming out the loss to the Canadians.
Mhm.
The overnight travel, they really came to play. That not so great showing here in Buffalo.
Mhm. Yep.
So my last thing, like we were talking about chemistry, I saw a lot of assisting and some great setting up for
Mhm.
deflections into goals. We had two from Thompson. He really scored a lot on his own. He had the game-saving score, I would say, in my opinion, with that
Yeah.
open net.
Yeah.
I liked watching that go all the way down the ice. What do you have to say about that?
I mean, that whole play with Thompson is so great, but I don't think that goal comes to Thompson if Greenway is not on the ice.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Mhm.
Jordan Greenway has been phenomenal on the penalty kill. I mean, seriously, last night it was a 5-on-3 with 30 something seconds left,
Mhm.
and he's able to steal the puck away and dump it all the way down the other end of the ice. Like that is just so beneficial for your team because now again you take that man back. It's 5-on-4, and it's a little bit easier. And then again, when you're a minute left in the game and potentially Sens are looking to bring it to overtime,
Mhm.
and he makes a great block, and Tage is able to follow up and just dump it down the ice. Like I mean, I love that we got Greenway halfway through the season last season. And I think
Okay.
he's been probably one of the most physical savers on the ice, but he's just overall been fantastic.
Yeah, I think it's like all the way through the game until obviously the end.
Right.
They played really well in the rush and they were able to shut down their Senators' counters.
Agreed.
So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, so we'll take a quick question from the comments real quick. So we have here, it says, how do you feel about the Sabres getting a large amount of penalty minutes, especially so close to the end of the game? That was actually going to be the next thing that I was going to ask you
Good.
guys,
Yeah.
because I saw the numbers. It was 10 penalties to 7 or 8, I believe. And from what I've heard, like the Sabres would end up losing games due to just getting out of it and getting into fights.
Yeah.
But like they're a tight unit, they're back up each other, they back each other up all the time. How do you guys feel about them racking up those penalties though?
Yeah, I mean any game between the Senators and the Sabres has history since the 90s with Rob Ray. Like these are rivals. So again, I always expect a pretty chippy game between these teams. And last night it was brought out. You had Alex Tuck going for some Tilly time. They go and just I mean he's throwing hands again. This is what his second fight in like 3 games. So he's throwing hands, and then after that, there's a scrum between Tarasenko and Dylan Cousins. We're getting into it. You have
Mhm.
like Skinner and everybody yelling from the bench. Like it is really a matter of discipline, but it was definitely I mean heated. You got to control your emotions because
Yeah, it's
like
high emotions game.
exactly high emotions and just being smart in general. When the Sabres are the Senators are rallying back, it's 5-4,
Mhm.
and then you have Gergensons make a trip in the end. I mean, you can debate on whether or not that was a trip. A little chop on the knee is whatever. But you got to be disciplined because again, it'll come back to bite you in the end. And this. I mean, you can see that with the Senators. The Skinner had a great power play goal right as Dan Dunleavy was talking over the air about how bad the Senators have been on penalty kills. So definitely, discipline is a big thing the Sabres got to work.
Yeah, so to feedback off of that, I also feel like the Sabres having a lot of penalty minutes is something that's going to hinder them later in the season. Even though that it might not look bad now because they did win the game, it's going to definitely impact them when you need somebody on the field and on the ice. I mean, I'm so used to other sports
Right.
on the ice, and you're like, okay, we're down one man. You might have to have that open net situation if you need more defense, and then you're putting yourself at a line to open up just like we did and seal a game on a 2-goal deficit.
Sure that.
So we have another question from Pika Power
Love it.
regarding Ottawa closing the gap in the third. Did you feel UPL still performed great, or did the Sabres leave him high and dry?
Ooh, so they're talking. I mean, so you're talking about winding down, and the Sabres definitely left them high and dry. I mean, I think they were just that. So the only goal that they had up until 4 minutes was
Mhm.
off the crossbar. UPL loses it, and it's like that one's understandable. But coming down to it, like, I mean, I'll call out Samuelson here. There were a few times where, again, you see like the shot comes from the point, Tarasenko's wide open in the back door, and we have like two people covering like the slot. It's like just shade over and cover like that. So it's like again, just being aware of where everybody is on the
Understanding the
ice.
scheme and just having that
Exactly.
chemistry, like relying on somebody. That's what they
Exactly.
need to do, right?
That's what it feels like. It feels like again, there's those high pressure situations. I think that just break down a lot on defense. So I think it's I'd say it's partly UPL's fault, but it really again defense is something that needs to step up.
Okay. Well, I think that KJ did a great job covering the Sabres for us. Thank you so much, sir.
Absolutely.
But that's not the last thing that we're going to talk about them, because they do have a game coming up this Saturday, I believe, against the New Jersey Devils. That's actually Friday. So they're at the New Jersey Devils. Make sure that you guys tune into that game. We want our Sabres to catch another win.
Yeah.
So thank you, KJ, one more time for covering that Sabres section. We'll be right back with quick messages from our sponsors over at
Come on.
AAA,
AAA.
yes. Over at AAA, yeah. While we come back, we'll have some Bill stories for you guys. Thank you so much.
You wouldn't do that. So why do you do this? Distracted driving kills an average of 9 people and injures over 1,000 every day in America. Put down your phone. Lives depend on it. Don't drive intoxicated. Don't drive intoxicated. A sobering message from AAA.
And welcome back, guys. So we will be diving right into the Bills now, because they have a great game coming up tomorrow, Thursday night prime football on Amazon Prime against Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Okay,
let's hear
you
it.
tell me. I don't like. I mean, leading up to these Bills games now, like I want to be so excited for it, but the way they played in the past 2 games, I'm like immensely nervous.
Immediately when I see the Buccaneers on the schedule, I'm like, oh, this is an easy win.
Right.
But I said that about the Patriots too.
And the Giants.
And the Giants. Josh Allen has, as much as I love him, he has a bad tendency to play below his level when he faces quarterbacks that are worse than him. And Baker Mayfield is definitely a quarterback that is worse than him.
Yeah,
All
exactly.
right, so hold on. Before we get in depth with this conversation, we'll add another one of our insiders into the talk. So, Richie, do you mind letting in our sir Brandon in their
Let's go,
show?
Brandon.
What up?
Stop.
Just gonna pop in here.
Love it. All right. But yeah, I mean, I just really, I'm nervous about it. But, I heard that. I think this was from Brownie on Nice.
Don't mind me.
What an intro.
From one to live, I think Baker and Josh Allen like lead the league in interceptions since 2018.
Yep.
Like after that, Josh Allen has a lot of touchdowns. Exactly. So he put a touchdown and Baker.
So it's funny that you brought that up, because Josh has actually thrown an interception in his last 3 games. So that's something that I've been paying attention to. I hope he doesn't throw another interception against a lackluster defense in the Buccaneers. I think the only thing that we really should look to and worry about for them is their offense. They have Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. So what do you guys thought on this game? What's something that we could look into? Like, what do you think of the game so far?
Yeah, I think I'll echo Rich here. Is that I think they need to score as soon as possible, because I mean, like games like the Jaguars game, Giants game, Pats game, if they don't come out on their first drive swinging, like the Raiders game, the defense gives up a touchdown, but Josh Allen gets a touchdown right back, and then they blow the Raiders out. Like if Josh Allen is a rhythm quarterback, I'll say it every week, and if he's not in the field consistently, whether that's because he's making bad decisions and that leads to a pick, or there's not enough execution on the side of the offense, or the defense isn't getting the other team's offense off the field. Like he doesn't have the drive to do it.
I think they need to run the ball and stick to it.
Mhm.
We need to use Dalton Kincaid. He had a big game last week, so we keep using him.
And James Cook as well. I'm
Yeah.
glad that you brought that up.
It's interesting that you mentioned Kincaid because Austin Knox and Quentin Morris. The two guys out.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that is something that I would like to bring up because we do have more questions from the fans. So, or the guests, whatever. I'm so sorry. I'm not used to doing this. But we have Quentin Morris is out for the game, which makes Dalton Kane the only active tight end currently on the roster. How do you think this is going to affect the offense?
So, do you mind if I I think what's really interesting is this whole talk in the offseason with bringing on Dalton Kincaid and having Knox also in your back pocket is 12 personnel. But now with 2 injured tight ends, I mean, really, you're going back to 11, and you also have really skilled receivers. So it's like, I think this might be the best thing for the Bills. Obviously the injuries aren't great at all.
I agree to that because
yeah,
I feel like taking out that 12 personnel and bringing us back down to 11, we lose a blocker, but that's going to make the other team want to send more pressure at Josh. And if you looked at the stats or heard anything that's been going on, the more times that you pressure Josh, the fact he gets the ball, and that's more successful for us because he's more short and he's making a better decision rather than looking for the deep over that game. That's something that I definitely wanted to look into. And yeah.
What I was interested about too is again with all this 11 personnel talk, we're alluding to kind of the scheme and the offensive scheme and what Dorsey is drawing up, and do you guys feel like more of these issues that have been showing up in the past couple of weeks have been more Allen?
I think Brandon has a lot to say on that one.
Or is it Dorsey?
I've been before, as long as I don't kick any lights down.
Right.
So I've really been thinking about this, and I've really been off the show, obviously coming down hard on Ken Dorsey, and I feel bad and I apologize because I've been really thinking about it. And there's a lot of things in play. I think that number one, if you go back, Allen actually vouched for Dorsey for the OC job. There's one thing. He wanted him in there immediately. Okay. So that makes me think, has Josh's mentality changed? Is this not mentality about the game? Of course he loves the game, but I think some things that we talked about at the beginning of the season is coming into the season, has all this outside noise affected his focus on the game? I mean, other than that, logically, are there new plays? I'm no expert. I'm just looking for answers. Is it a difficult playbook? I find it hard to believe that the players would have a hard time knowing the plays. I feel like Josh Allen would
players too.
have a hard time learning the plays.
Exactly. No, I mean, I feel like that in most ways, the Bills have kind of tamed the beast of Josh Allen, where he feels at least while watching him, he just feels, more calm, which is, like I said, what can be a good thing, but it's a different Josh Allen than we've seen in years past. Again, way less running plays, and a substantially less.
So I would rather say, instead of calling calm, he's just getting very comfortable now, and he's not taking those risky plays anymore that we used to see from him. He's just doing what we're asking of him.
Yeah, you can make the argument there. Comfortability is a thing too, because I think he's at least a majority of the time he makes the right decision.
And we've seen a lot of plays this year rolls out, and you can see he could probably get the first, but then he just throws it where no one can get it, just throws it out. Looks like
that's another thing.
That's a concern.
Yeah,
I'm also wondering, maybe it's McDermott's influence on Dorsey to
keep him
could
healthy.
be more than just Dorsey himself, and that still it comes down to execution. At the end of the day, they're the ones out there on the field. They have to show up and do what they're supposed to do.
Yeah. And that is the flip side of this coin too, I think, is that when he's not making those plays and he's throwing it away, he's keeping himself healthy, which is what we want. But can we get to the end of the season with Josh? Can we get into the playoffs?
Right.
We gotta.
Yeah,
To
even
an
then,
extent.
with
Yeah,
with this
with his shoulder and everything like that.
he
He's
says
such
he's fine, and he said that to multiple people now. And I think, like I said, we got to trust him on that front. If he says he's fine, he's most likely fine. I don't think it's anything like that elbow injury he was suffering last month. And I mean, again, the evidence lies in last game when he's pitching it 50 yards down, and it's a really accurate pass to Stephon Diggs. Like, I think he's fine, but it's just his play style
has definitely changed up. And I think
a lot of the success seems to come from like the 2-minute drills. It seems like when they play high tempo, it seems like they're a more like fluid team. They're able to work a little bit better.
When they need to score.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm saying that one. And
The pressure's there.
too.
Mhm. So we have another question from the comments, and it asks, "Who is the biggest player lost for the Bills going into Week 8?" So in the entire injury report, we have Dawson Knox, Quentin Willis, and Balen Spector.
You
and you
also
also have
and Oliver's questionable, which I mean you could throw into the conversation as well. But
So
I
that's
actually
not
have
in- oh, go ahead.
No, I have an interesting thing on this. I brought this article up before the show. I just saw this. The Buffalo Bills injury impact, according by like salary cap stats, we have 16% of our salary cap on injured reserve, and that's the most in the league. We have over 35 million of our salary cap on the injury reserve, and that is the most in the league. White accounts for the biggest, and in Milano and Daquan. Yeah. So I mean, that's significant. That's something that should be.
yeah. Like I said, when we really do think about it, you gotta at least cut some slack to the Bills with all the injuries. I mean, again, you have a pretty beat up secondary, and I mean, Daquan Jones is super destructive in the run. And it's not to say that other people like Ed Oliver can't be, or Phillips. I think Phillips is great. But again, he brought so much. And likewise with Milano, each of these players have really unique strengths. And I think, like I said, when they're missing,
again, that's
kind of a bit of a
Manuel has been here for a minute. Trey White has been here forever. So
that's arguably our two best defensive players.
Yeah.
Just out.
Yeah. It's it really is a tough scene. Thanks for bringing that up, though. I mean, that is crazy to think about that.
Yeah.
How much money is just sitting in that IR.
I would definitely say that it would be Matt Milano for me. That would be our biggest loss so far because he's like the tight knit unit on the defense. He's the shot caller, middle linebacker.
Yeah.
You already know that's in a very important position on the field.
What do you guys think needs to be done going forward if they're gonna get better? Get
Yeah.
back to where they
Get
were.
the therapy. I don't.
Right. Ridiculous. And this seems to happen every season. This was last season with Micah Hyde going out game 2. Dane Jackson gets injured at some point, and then Von Miller obviously, and DeMar going out way later. But like, Justin has said it when he's on the show before. It's football. It happens, but
They should be prepared.
exactly. But
Yeah.
at the same time, it really nothing can really fill these gaps that are being placed there. So best thing to move forward. I mean, is
Vaughn active last week.
that is a good question. Was Vaughn active? I don't think
He
Vaughn
was active.
was.
I think there was a picture of him on the field,
Okay.
but he did not play much.
Yeah, that's fair. But yeah, again, a lot of question marks surrounding this defense going forward.
Okay, so I know we talked a little bit about the keys to the game, Richie, but what would you say would be the one way that we can contain Baker Mayfield and stop him from getting over that 90 pass rating? Because officially, that's the only way that he's been getting wins. All of his losses is when he's had under a 90 pass efficiency rating, and anytime that he's got a win, it's been over a 90. But Josh Allen has also been having games where under a 90 hasn't been doing good for him. So their defense could kind of be thinking the same way as ours. What would you say is a key to getting Baker Mayfield down and stopping them from getting a win?
I think it would honestly be the pass rush. I feel like Baker Mayfield tends to panic a lot. I think once he gets that pressure from Greg Rousseau and Von Miller, who honestly has had a slow start to the year.
Yeah, that's how
But
it was too.
he's coming back from injury, so I'll cut him some slack. But just the ability to get in Baker Mayfield's head, because if I'm being honest, I do not necessarily trust Benford and Elam and Taron Johnson against Evans and Godwin.
Yeah.
So we could beat them with the secondary, but I feel like the best way to get into Baker Mayfield's head is through the pass rush.
Yeah.
If we have to adjust, we have to adjust.
Yeah, no, I think so. What about our final scores here? I
Yeah,
mean,
that's what I was gonna
I,
get
I
to
oh
next.
man, I really hate doing final scores because every week it's so disappointing. But I mean, screw it. Just give me like 17-10 or something.
Somebody's gonna be right. It's something.
It's gonna be 17-10.
I think we're gonna bounce back. I think it's gonna be 27-13 Bills.
Okay. What do you got, Brandon, for our final score?
You said 27-13? All right. Buccaneers. I haven't thought about this before the show. I'm gonna say
Sorry, I thought it was Bills.
22-17.
Which way?
Oh, Bills.
Okay,
Bills.
sorry.
Sorry.
And Richie, what you got?
I actually think, and this is a lot of hope, but I think this will be a Raiders-esque game. I think coming off of the poor weeks, I think they're in dire need of just a bounce back and
Mhm.
improve. Because right now we look like a fringe playoff team, and we know that's not the
Yeah.
ceiling.
Right.
So I think they win it 31-14.
Okay.
I agreed with Richie. I feel like it's something that they had to get a win out of this game because they're on a streak right now of 2, so they're potentially going on a 3-game losing streak. And I would like to say that they finished the game in the 40s, so 42-17. I think they ball out on Thursday night. But that is all that we have for you guys. Thank you so much for tuning into our episode of Buffalo Sports Insider, where we give you everything sports, everything Buffalo. Make sure to check us out on TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, X, Facebook. Make sure that you look at our website too at buffalosportsinsider.com. I've been here with KJ Zelazinski, Ronan McDonald, Brandon Berry, and Richard Miller. I'm Deshaun Francois, and I hope you guys have a beautiful day. Thank you.
These guys.
Peace.